Hey there, I'm Danny Wilcox. I'm an entertainer in the realms of go-go dance, YouTube, modeling, and adult media. I'm here to explore the world of the entertainment industry through the lens of consumers and entertainers alike. So brace yourself for some deep conversations with unique and talented individuals right here on Keeping People Coming. Hey people, it's me, Danny Wilcox, with another episode of Keeping People Coming. I have an extra special introduction for you because I started editing this episode and ran into a mishap. Something is wrong with the mics, they weren't plugged in, and the phone didn't pick anything up. So the first 10 minutes of my interview with this lovely man are lost forever. Well, the video isn't, but the audio is. So without further ado, here is most of my interview with Christian, a go-go dancer who got his start in Boston and has been dancing at the Lucky Horseshoe for 7 years. He is the longest standing dancer at this moment and is absolutely wonderful. I've been a good friend of his from the moment I started working there. Enjoy. To have the little issues and errors and forgetting things because it'll only get better from there.
Yeah. It gives it that like authentic vibe.
Mm-hmm. So what were we talking about?
You kind of talked about the three reasons that people will go.
Mm-hmm.
Like some is kind of like, maybe they're a little horny, whatever. Some want conversation and some like want to party.
Mm-hmm. I will say at the Lucky Horseshoe, I've had guys who try to pull their genitals out while I'm doing or while we're doing like a private type dance.
Yeah, me
Um,
too.
Nothing more has ever happened at all, ever. Uh,
Hmm.
but you really got to have strong boundaries and a strong sense of yourself. I've seen some guys there, they're new, and they'll kind of just go along with it even if they don't want to because they feel the pressure. And
Yeah.
go-go dancers feel a lot of pressure. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I've been doing it for a while and I'm pretty assertive about setting my boundaries. I'm like, no, you don't do that. I've definitely had guys try to unzip their pants. No, you just say no and they'll listen. Everyone's always listened to me at least. If they
Oh yeah.
didn't, they'd have a problem. But I definitely have friends who, I even have a friend who works there who says people will ask him his boundaries, and even though he doesn't want them to do certain things, he'll just say anything goes. Some people really are kind of passive or shy or just don't know how to say no to things, and he lets people do things that he doesn't want them to do. I know a lot of dancers, like maybe if someone asks their boundaries, they might communicate that, but
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times people don't ask and just like let people do things, and that's unfortunate. Like I would never do that, but
Yeah, well, that's why go-go dancers really have to stick together. One thing I used to
yeah.
like to do is people say, "Oh, what are your boundaries? What are your limits?" And I'd say, "How much money do you have?"
Okay, I like
Like,
that.
but then of course, nothing that will get me fired.
Yeah, I say everything is like you can touch me over the underwear, and don't touch my face or my hair because I would almost rather you fist me than like touch my hair or touch not my hair, whatever, my face. Like, oh, like people, I'm like, is it that they actually like to touch my face, or is it some kind of power move for them to go like this? I'm like, off.
But you don't know where those hands have been. Now
Exactly.
there's
I
one
do
guy
know
came
where
in.
they.
He looked like he'd been sleeping in an alley, which he might have, but he was actively covered in grime and dirt. Was trying to touch all up on everyone, and then kept trying to get me to drink from his drink. It was just aggressive
No.
and gross. But we definitely get people who are kind of pushy when we're go-go dancing. A little bit less so at Hydrate, but I think that's because we are on top of the bar. We're a little bit more separated, and we don't
Hmm.
really mingle as much.
Right.
Although the people at Hydrate are a little more catty at times. Not all of them. I don't mean the dancers either. Um, the dancers are. I feel like the vibe there is a little bit different. There
Yeah.
have been some who work at the Lucky Horseshoe and Hydrate, and some who have transferred over after years.
Hmm.
I won't name names, but there's a certain dancer who had some problems with clients at the Lucky Horseshoe, and I think it just wasn't the right environment for him.
Yeah, no, it's different because it's a little bit more intimate. It's like it is more about the conversation and more one-on-one. If really what you want to do is dance on a stage and just have people tip you on stage and be, not actually talking to you or close to you or really able to touch you, then you're probably going to prefer something like Hydrate or maybe Atmosphere. I think where I work, you can make a lot more money because you're like a salesman. Like I make my money talking to people. I went to school for advertising communications. Like I'm good at that. I'm good at having people one on one. I actually, it's fun when I'm on stage and it's a busy Friday or Saturday and like everybody's tipping. But generally on those days, our sets are so short anyway because depending on how many dancers, they divide up the hour. On a Friday or Saturday, you only get to dance for like 7 minutes every hour.
Yeah.
So that's fun, but really I kind of prefer when it's a little bit slower and I can actually sit and talk to somebody, kind of flirt, get them to like me, and that's how you get the money. And I do like respect people, as long as they have respect for me, I respect them. I
Hmm.
know some guys like they'll go up and like customers will tell me they're like, "Oh, you're like the only like not the only, but like they do say that sometimes, like friendly one here, or you're nice." I like that because a lot of guys will go up and be like lap dance and then like, and even sometimes I'll take the money and not even give them a full dance or anything. Like it's
Yeah, that's part of why I left too. A lot of newer dancers were getting really aggressive, and it was like driving customers away. I'd have
yeah.
somebody who'd be like, "Oh, somebody else just like kind of pushed me into a lap dance I didn't want, so now I'm not really not going to give anything to you,
All
even
right.
though I wanted to." It's unfortunate.
I'm pushy in like the polite way that salespeople are pushy. Like
Yeah,
I'm gonna get what I want, but I'm gonna make you think that you want it because you do want it. I don't.
exactly. So the two things I want to talk about first is the way that sets work at different bars. Because at Hydrate, it's kind of like if there's a spot open on the bar, you need to get up and fill it. But you're up there maybe 30 to 45 minutes out of the hour.
Mhm.
Could you explain how it works at the Lucky Horseshoe?
So you are basically. I always people ask, and it's funny because I think that it's harder to explain than how simple it really is. But
Hmm.
you have a certain number of dancers. So let's say you have 12 dancers. You would put six on each side because we have two stages, and then you alternate. And the hour is divided up by how many dancers are there. So let's say you have six dancers on a side. That would mean each set, an hour divided by six is 10 minutes.
Hmm.
And then you go back and forth. So depending on your order, if you're the first person, you dance on the hour every hour. Second person dances at the 10-minute mark.
Hmm.
So I'll tell people I'm at the 10-minute mark. So I'll go up at 8, 10, 9, 10, 11, 10, back and forth. And then sometimes it's like, my minute is like 37. It's like I'll go up at 8:37 and people will be like, "Oh, that's so specific." But that's
And
how it's got to be.
yeah, and that's why it sounds specific, and that's why all the dancers have watches. If you're
Yeah.
ever wondering why go-go dancers wear them.
I actually used to not, and I can't believe I got away with it for so long. And then I finally got an Apple Watch. I just don't like watches, so I'd have to ask people what time it is. And I mean, if you look at who's on stage, you can kind of get an idea of, when you're up. But wearing the watch is so much better because before I would be like, someone would want to give me money, but I would be like, oh, I don't really have time to take that much money. Like, I got to go up on stage soon. And now I'm like, oh, I've got exactly 4 minutes. Perfect. And then I
Yeah,
get right up on stage.
yeah.
Watches are great.
I just lose my watch a lot, which
Yeah.
is why I don't have a nice one. Although I feel like I'd pay more attention then. But the second thing was a specific word you used earlier. You were talking about intimacy, essentially. So I feel like a lot of this work is very intimate, and that's how it kind of relates to sex work, even though it isn't actually sex that you're having.
Hmm.
Um, what do you feel about go-go dancing is the most intimate?
So, kind of I don't know. I kind of will. People will ask what a lap dance is, and I don't know how to describe it. I'm kind of like, let me show you, and then can I kind of like I'll put my hand on their shoulder, and I'll maybe put my like face up to their like ear and their neck, and just like be really. God, this is so awkward to like reenact hypothetically, but it's very much like about the touch. They're not touching anything private. It's not really sexual so much as it's like when you first meet someone and you look into their eyes very intimately, and that's what a lot of these people are missing. Maybe they can go on Grinder and they can hook up, but they want something more intimate, and it's a very like human personal thing, at least the
Mm-hmm.
way that I do it. I
Yeah.
try to really connect with people, and that's what people want. That's a lot of what people get out of sex, is not just the literal sex, but the connection and the intimacy and the feeling like somebody's really seeing you and wanting to be in your presence for a little bit.
Hmm. Since I'm heavily involved in sex work, having started in before I ever go-go danced, I really got into that in just an intense way when I was just 20 years old. And transferring it to go-go dance was different than I expected. For me, the most intimate part, other than like private dances when somebody is trying to do a little too much, is being on stage because how you move is just being seen by everyone there because you're lit up and it's dark everywhere else. You're wearing next to nothing. People can see the outlines of certain things and they can almost see a little preview of how you are in bed. So for me, that's almost the most intimate part. And at Hydrate, people having a little bit more open judgment, I'll say, especially because I'm dancing
Oh
during
yeah.
the day with those big windows, so everything's lit up and I can
Hmm.
overhear people. Um, it just makes me a little bit more reserved than I want to be. Because you've seen me dance at the shoe, I will
Oh,
be
you're
doing all
great.
sorts of crazy stuff. I'll be doing splits and backbends and things, and I don't do that so much at Hydrate
Do you
anymore.
do that in bed?
Yes, yes, I
Nice,
do.
nice.
There will be a compilation of that coming eventually on my fan sites. Eventually, if I can ever finish all my other editing.
I do yoga in the bed, I don't
It's like
that's a
bedroom
song though.
gymnastics. Oh,
Yeah,
wait, you said
yeah,
that's
I
a
don't know.
song?
Yeah, Brooke Candy. Let's do yoga on the bed. Put that in my head. That's I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I like what you're saying about, yeah, I get what you're saying. I feel like having done it so long, I feel confident on stage and I feel um now I'm kind of stuttering. I don't know what I'm saying, but
Well, I know you were telling me a little earlier that you've been working on your dance moves.
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
Trying to
what
people notice more, trying to like do some like Shakira things, like stuff with my hips and like learn how to do things a little, like I watch YouTube tutorials and like learn how to dance a little more professionally because I always liked to dance. I would be the person I'd like go to the club, but I'd be like a little wild and now I'm trying to be a little bit more controlled. I've been doing it for so long. I'm like, let me be kind of good at dancing and people notice. I don't know.
Yeah, well, something that really impacts that for me is the music. I like the music better at the Lucky
Oh,
Horseshoe, which is just because Hydrate is specifically like house type stuff, and it's certain
yeah.
genres of house, and it's there is some flexibility based on the DJs, and I do like the DJs there. Don't get me wrong. If any of you DJs are listening, don't get mad at me, or do I don't care. But just at the Lucky Horseshoe, there's a bit more variety, and with the theme nights, it just makes it a lot more fun. Of course,
Yeah.
depending on the theme.
Yeah, no, the music's great, and I will say the person who does the music at the Lucky Horseshoe is also great. The thing is, you don't get to pick your songs, and you don't really get to pick your songs anywhere. But sometimes people will think you do get to pick your songs, and then I'll get up there, and there will be a song that I happen to not want to dance to, and it will be like, oh, I just in my head, I'm like, I hate that somebody thinks that this is a song I want to dance to, and this is how poorly I'm dancing because I wouldn't pick this. But generally, the music is really great. Rob does a great job.
Yeah. Well, whenever that happens, I will just kind of do a little two step, maybe the
Yeah,
Macarena.
exactly.
Sorry, Mariah, but All I Want for Christmas Is You is not a dance song. And I
Right,
don't care
right.
how you remix it. Well, I guess maybe if you remixed it right. Huh. Well, going past music, I want to talk about the things about go-going that people really don't know. And I touched on this a little bit in my first episode, but I guess the main thing, or the first thing to talk about, is getting ready. What does getting ready for a go-go shift look like for you?
Okay, so I mean, obviously I shower, I put on some music, I try to like get in the zone. I try to go into Christian mode because that's not my real name. I don't care if you know my name is Alex. But Christian is like a persona that I created. And I'm very authentic. I kind of say like the only thing I lie about is my name or sometimes my age. Because people, think that I'm being completely fake. And the thing is, a lot of the ways that I make money, everyone's kind of got a different audience, a different style. But I'm very much about being myself. People pick up on like the genuine thing and they think, oh, this isn't what I expect a go-go dancer to be because they have their stereotypes.
And so many others
So
aren't like that.
yeah, so they like that and they appreciate that. So I am very authentic. I'm very genuine, but it is kind of like, in theory, it's a character. I feel like a performer and an actor, especially when I'm on stage and I'm dancing. It's like I can be this like confident hot guy that it's just it's like it feels like a transformation. Like I'll look in the mirror, I'll like put on like my chain, like the certain underwear I wear, and I always wear something a little bit more conservative. Actually, I never really wear jock straps. I'm just like leave something to the imagination, and I feel more comfortable. And people don't seem to mind it. Every once in
Mm-hmm.
a while, someone will be like, "Oh, you should put on something sexier," and I'm like, "Well, how much are you going to pay me to do that?"
Exactly.
Like if I don't have to, I'm not going to.
So this
Um,
transformation, I'm imagining like a Sailor Moon-esque type thing.
Yeah, oh my God. No, yeah. I look in the mirror and I'm kind of like, okay, like it's like Christian mode. I'll do my hair a certain way. And like to most people, I probably don't look any different. But I feel like it's like a mental transformation where I look different. I feel just like sexier and it's a different me. I feel like Alex is a little bit like awkward and like very like down to earth. Christian is kind of like a sex symbol. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know.
A little
And
bit more outspoken about yourself and your body.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, what happens when you're not in a great mood, but you have a shift coming up? How do you prepare for that?
Ooh, yeah, it's very much like I think there was I don't know if it was Lady Gaga or I think Beyonce where there's like she did some kind of documentary and like there's I feel like and this is kind of like a not like cliche but like something about performers. It's like she's like in the mirror and like something really bad just happened and they're like you're on in 5. She closes her eyes and then she like opens up and she's Sasha Fierce or whatever. It's like you kind of I just think, like whatever is happening, you have to go in there and put on your best face and your best vibe. And people, it's like if I'm not smiling, I like smile a lot, and people pick up sometimes. Like dancers will pick up. They're like, "Oh, what's wrong?" If I don't seem in a super good mood, because people tell me all the time, they're like, "You're so happy. You're always so positive," and I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel like I always am a super happy person, but I guess I'm good at putting that on, and it's natural, and I just become charming and happy, and it's a
Yeah.
vibe. It's
Well,
just it's easy for me to do for some reason, even if it's not what I felt before I got there, or
yeah.
even what I'm feeling there.
Is it that element of fake it till you make it, smile through the pain?
Oh, totally.
Hmm. I felt that a little bit too, but I'm not as good at it. People always see me as happy and smiley. Although I've definitely heard every other thing under the sun about me behind my back. People whispering at things. Although recently I wore my glasses, my new ones for the first time while go-go dancing, and I heard somebody in the corner say, "Oh, that's Jeffrey Dahmer." They do
People,
that kind
there
of
is
look like
actually
the
a customer who
glasses.
looks like Jeffrey Dahmer a little bit, but I don't know.
Ooh, I wonder if he ever went to the Lucky Horseshoe. I've heard that he did, but
Oh, Jeffrey Dahmer. Oh my God. Wow.
because he lived in
Yeah, he went in
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow.
Well, I feel like the clients don't tend to be that creepy. The
Oh
creepiest
no,
ones
no,
that I
no.
have ever gotten, I'd have to say, number one, there was a priest who came in and was all like, "Oh, you should work out less, and like, oh, you'd look better without the tattoos." Like, oh, so if I look like a child, thank you, Father. You probably
Yeah,
should go
yeah.
confess now.
Did his name start with a V?
I never got his
Was he?
name. I didn't talk to him for very long.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely people project onto you what they like. It's always like, oh, you've put on too much muscle or oh, you've lost too much weight. People notice everything with your body, like every pound, every whatever, like your facial hair, your haircut, tattoos or no tattoos. Like the I guess I'm kind of thankful that this is the worst thing someone said to my face, but they were like, you would be hot if you got a tan. You know, everybody, and then some people like pale skin or whatever. Like everybody likes something different, and you
Hmm.
can't please all of them. So you just have to do what you want. Like I have dancers who will like ask, like, "Oh, should I do this or not?" And it's like, "Well, do you like it?
Hmm.
Like, do you not know what you like? Because you just have to be yourself. Because
Yeah.
no matter what you do, no matter how you decide you want to look, some people are going to not like that because everybody has a type. And the cool thing about the Lucky Horseshoe that everyone seems to notice when they come in and tell me is like it's a lot of variety, there's a lot of diversity, kind of something for everyone. You
Hmm.
have all the body types, all like everything. So um, you just have to be yourself. I know how cheesy that sounds, but like it is because you're not going to please everybody, and you have to let roll off your back or your shoulder if they don't. Sorry, I touched the
Yeah.
mic.
Oh,
If they
you're fine.
don't, if they don't like you, then whatever, screw them. You can't let that get to you.
Yeah, well, those old adages are there for a reason, like letting
Yeah.
things roll off of you, put on a good front, be yourself. Something I've discovered with go-go dance, and this relates back to being sexual ambassadors, is that sometimes if there's something you haven't worn before, it's good to just try it out because you don't know how you'll feel
Oh
wearing it.
yeah.
And if people don't like it and you don't like it, whatever, don't wear it again. But recently, I bought these platform boots that are about this thick, and I'm very short, so it's kind of nice to be able to see over people and actually not be below everyone. And it just, I don't know, gives me this interesting presence. Plus, I actually can dance on the bar, and like everyone was kind of impressed that I wasn't falling or breaking a leg or something. And I didn't think that it would be something people would respond to, but they really did. I started making more money. I was getting compliments. The other dancers were tipping me. I could still do a handstand in them, which was the best part. And I never would have figured that out if I didn't try. Have there
Yeah.
ever been certain like dances or outfits or anything that you discovered you liked on stage or while dancing?
Um, I don't know if I like discovered I like them on stage, but definitely things that like I what maybe wasn't sure about. I get a lot of compliments, and then I'm like, okay, you're right. This does look good.
Hmm.
I would say so. The funny thing is, so we're supposed to like change our underwear a lot throughout the night, and I never do that. I like to wear. I find out what looks good on me. I have all this underwear, and usually I don't spend a lot of money on it. So there's all kinds of things I bought worn once, or maybe just tried on as like I don't like the way I look in this. So I kind of have like a certain aesthetic. I wear a lot of black and white. I wear a lot of checker. I like animal print. I have like these tiger stripe ones that like come down to here. Like they're tight, but they're
Hmm.
really long. But it's kind of like a look on me, and I don't know. I have things that I find out I like, and then I'll wear them all night.
Hmm. Have you ever
Um,
had clients who have discovered they liked something because you were wearing it or you were doing it?
Um, I guess I've like worn a thong before and had people say like, "Oh, I don't think I like thongs, or I never liked them, but like this looks good on you."
Except on you.
That's yeah.
And that's always a nice feeling, feeling like the exception to something. The one I got the most is I don't normally like short guys, but or I don't normally
How do you
like
feel
white
about
guys.
that?
Oh, I I feel like it's one of those disguised compliments where it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, you're. What would be a good example? Well, growing up, one of my friends was always told you're really well spoken for a black girl, and that's not really a compliment.
Not at all.
And it's like it's great that you like that, but you could also just say you're attractive.
Right.
Like, you don't have to add the short part. Like, I know I'm short.
Right. I don't get why people still think that that's like a compliment or something that you want to add in. It's
Hmm.
like, I guess to them in their head, it's like, you're exceptional because I don't usually like that. But all you're really telling them is, I'm racist, or I think something's wrong with you that I can look past because it's you.
Exactly. Like another one. I don't normally like tattoos, but it's like, oh, because they're spaced out, you shouldn't get any more though. And I'm like, oh, I'm totally not going to just because you don't want me to.
Right. Yeah. And I hate when people like I don't have any tattoos and people will be like, "Oh, like I do you not have any tattoos? Like I love that. All these guys have tattoos." Or they'll use something about me to like put down other people. I'm like, "Don't do that."
Yeah, these are my coworkers. They're my friends. And
Yeah.
well, actually, on that point, at the Lucky Horseshoe, I feel like there's a little bit more drama than at some other bars, and that could be due to the length of the shifts, how often you're there interacting with each other, or maybe just the personalities. But how do you deal with drama amongst other dancers, whether it's with you or like next to you?
Oh, it's never with me. I stay out of it really well. When I first started, there was a dancer who didn't like me, and it was clearly envy. He'd been there for a while, and I was like, the new kid on the block. And like one of the things that he said, I was just telling a customer, "Oh, I'm an artist," and then he's like a sculptor or something. He went to school for it, and he's in the back telling people apparently like, "Oh, Christian thinks he's an artist. He's not a real artist. He's never even seen anything I did." And it's like people, and he always had a problem with me, and he wasn't there for very long after I started, honestly, anyway. And then I saw him at an airport like 2 years later or something, and he was cool. We just kind of like didn't talk much. But he's like, "Oh, Christian, right?" I was like, "Yeah," uh, but I don't get involved in drama, which I'm kind of proud of. Like, it's funny because people say like, everybody talks, like everybody has had something said behind their back. But I asked him, I was like, "What do they say about me?" And he was like, "Honestly, I don't think I've heard anything about you. For how long I've been there, I stay out of that shit. I stick to my own business, and I have friends, and I'm friendly, but I don't really get involved in drama. And I wouldn't say there's like a ton of it,
Not a
but
ton.
it happens.
More than at other places. That's the
Yeah,
only thing that I've heard.
probably because we have like a locker room. We have this environment where we're all, I don't know what you would have in like Hydrate, but you're generally up there dancing. There's a lot more conversation at the shoe. There's a lot more, like there can be conflict about not showing up for your set on time. That's one of the big conflicts. There's like stealing someone's customer. Or I think it's kind of bad etiquette if someone is like deep in a conversation with a customer and you just come up and be like, "Hey, like I don't do that. I'll kind of wait my turn."
Yeah, unless you
Depending on the
talk to the
customer,
other
because there's some
dancer.
who, yeah, yeah, yeah. There, it's just like you kind of got to know when it's rude and when it's not. But
Yeah, I always try my best to stay out of drama, but sometimes it finds me. I know part of it's due to my reputation, like because I do, and like people recognize me around. People always want to talk about stuff. The main one was I was late for a set like twice for this one dancer, and I kept saying like, "Let me pay you for the minutes I was late," because often that's what we would do. You're 5 minutes late, give me $5. And this other dancer got mad at me, who was not even involved in the scenario whatsoever, and a
I
fight
feel like I
actually broke
somewhat
out.
remember this.
Yeah, it was the same dancer you mentioned had an encounter recently and got fired. I don't know if he was fired, but he's not there anymore. But he was getting in my face and like spitting on me, and I'm kind of like, dude, this has nothing to do with you. And he was just mad, like, oh, this black dancer is like letting this white boy get away with all this stuff just because he wants to have sex with him or blah blah blah. And I just wasn't really having it. So eventually I put my hands up. He pushed against them, so I pushed him, and I almost got fired because Shoving was considered bad as hitting. And I guess I could have just walked away, but he came up to me, and
Hmm.
I didn't like that. So he swung on me, and all I did was kept pushing him away from me. Then, of course, another dancer who didn't like me, I picked my foot up and pushed him away, and they claimed I kicked them in the balls, which absolutely did not happen. They ended up getting fired eventually too.
Yeah,
But with
the
drama
bad
like
seeds
that,
get fired eventually.
I wanted to stay away from it because I seem to be a little bit of a drama magnet, even when I'm trying not to be. I'm not sure why. Hmm. But that's with dancers. Do you ever experience tension with clients or regulars?
Yeah, oh my God, there's this guy who used to pretend that he had all this money. I was friends with a door guy who doesn't work there anymore. And the door guy, I guess he thought was kind of rude to him. And he was like, first thing I'm doing when I own, like, it's like, I'm buying this place. And I work for Google. I'm like really high up and it's all bullshit. And he's like, I'm buying Lucky Horseshoe. And first thing I'm doing is firing him. And I was like, oh, and you're gonna like pay the dancers too, right? And like all this stuff. But he's saying, he's giving me $20, which is what it is for like like one dance, like 4 minutes. It's not that much. But he's sitting there like expect, like, if someone has that much money, it's like, keep giving 20s. And I told him at a point, I'm like, you know a lot for how much money you say you have. Most people pay me a lot more for a lot less of my time, like. So
Mm-hmm.
then I walked away, and then he thought I was like mad at him, and like I stopped talking to him, and like all dancers would come up to me and be like, "Hey, this guy thinks that like you're mad at him, and he just wants to talk to you, and whatever." And I talked to him, and he used to tip like at least decently, like 20s, and then it became fives. And I heard that someone saw his place recently, and he lives in like this dump with like water like dripping from the ceiling and shit. It's like funny. A lot of people really, they're like, "Oh, I'm like best friends with Madonna." Customers will just make shit up, and if they talk about how much money they have, they probably aren't showing it.
Yeah, most of the people with money are kind of a little more understated about it. I'm pretty sure I know who you're talking about, and I think he just loves drama,
He's got a
personally.
three-letter name,
Oh yeah,
and he hasn't been there in a while.
three letters.
Hmm.
Anyway, something else I wanted to talk about because this hasn't really come up on any episodes yet: substance use in the clubs. I know a lot of dancers don't engage with it. A lot of them don't even drink. But I know at some bars, like you get at Hydrate, we get drink tickets, and I don't
Oh,
because I
cool.
kind of stopped drinking, particularly when I'm working. A lot of dancers will smoke weed or take edibles, and that I feel like can affect the way you interact with people and with each other.
Hmm.
I wouldn't I honestly don't know if you can compare the substance use at the Lucky Horseshoe versus Hydrate. I don't think it's any more or less at either one. It's more about the individuals. What do you have to say about substances and go-go dancing?
I would say, I would imagine that at Hydrate, the substances are probably a little bit more of the ones that you generally have in a circuit scene. At the Lucky Horseshoe, weed is just very common. People always have a vape pen. People are always trying to bum vape pens from other dancers. It's just really, really, really common.
Yeah, once a week there's an email. Stop smoking in the locker room.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But the other drugs are not so common, honestly. It's a lot of weed and nicotine, and I've actually quit both of those. Um, but I drink, and the thing is, technically, so we don't get paid. We used to, like in the beginning, we would have some paid shifts. Now there's none, unless it's just like a day
Even
shift.
okay.
Yeah, and even that's like what, $10 an hour or something. It's
I
like,
remember it used to be eight,
yeah,
like
I think it
40
might have went up
bucks.
to 10, but
Okay, that's something.
yeah. But and that's probably like before tax though, so probably ends up being 8 or 7. But generally, like, our job is to make the bar money, which means to sell drinks. So if someone asks to buy you a drink, you're always supposed to say yes. But you can tell the bartenders like, "Hey, I just like make me fake drinks," and they'll do that. But like last night, actually, it was a Wednesday. I work Wednesday through Sunday, and there's this guy that is like, shots, shots. He's like, shots constantly, and he also would tip well, so I'd say yes. But I was like I'd be like, no, like I'm drunk, like no, and I wasn't really drunk, but I was like, I'm drinking more
You
than I
don't
want
want to
to,
be
and I do.
drunk.
Right, yeah, and it's like I do tend to drink sometimes more than I want to, just because people are offering and they have money and that's what they want, and it's kind of that's like the one thing where sometimes I'll just go with it, or I'll be like whatever, and if I really didn't want to drink, I wouldn't. But I think that part of it is like, well, whatever, maybe I'll have a little bit more fun if I do this shot, but it is like if I'm working 5 nights a week, I don't want to be drinking all five of
Yeah.
those nights.
So why do you think some go-go dancers get real heavy into substances while they're dancing?
I've actually heard some people say that like they have to do it. And I've seen some people who didn't really do substances before they started there, and then you see them get kind of messy. And that's kind of sad. Or like, some of the people that, indulge in marijuana, like they like have to be high for their shift. And I've heard people tell me that. Like, different people, depending on how they make their money or how comfortable they are with the job in general, some people just like don't want to be touched at all. Some people are nervous on stage and they kind of have to disassociate.
Hmm.
Some people do that certain that they use for horses and cats, and they say that helps them disassociate. And I tried that before. I didn't like it at all. It felt so weird to me. I don't like to
Particularly when
not feel like
working.
myself. Yeah. Oh my god, on stage I felt like I was gonna like stumble. Everything feels simultaneously like a second behind and a second ahead. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know if I should
Especially when you
even.
combine it with alcohol, it's like you're in another dimension.
Yeah.
That actually is why I ended up leaving the Lucky Horseshoe. Is I did about 4 or 5 shots and had maybe 3 drinks in like less than 2 hours, and then had a little bit of that, and I was just completely out of it. Like I had to have another dancer help me to make sure I got to my sets on time, and I did, and I almost got fired. And I was kind of like, I'm just not in a place in my life where I'm ready to just say no to all of that so easily. I was a little too influenced by other people, and I needed some time away from it. So I took a little
Hmm.
hiatus, and then after a while, I just decided to leave. I actually talked to Rob earlier this week about picking up a couple shifts here and there. I just know it's not within the rules. Like you're supposed to work like 2 week shifts and one weekend, right?
Um, at least one weekday shift, but generally you don't really have to do two. You could, if you do one, then you can get like a weekend shift, and your family. You've been there long. Like you're
Yeah.
fine. You're
Well, I
fine.
asked him if I could work once every other week. So that's
Maybe. I mean,
iffy.
you know, just ask him.
Yeah. Well, I know it's like I have a certain something that isn't always there, and I think that's the gymnastic stuff mostly. And now that my name is getting bigger in the adult industry, it's a little bit of a draw for people.
Yeah, exactly. He likes to have, different people who have different skill sets, different looks, different personalities. Like, so you have to bring something to the table, and you bring a lot to the table. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
definitely are more valuable than someone else who maybe just wants to work once every other week that he's like, why would I do that for you?
Mm-hmm. I also I really enjoy the work. Like I enjoy talking
I
with
do
people,
too. I
spending
really do.
time, and because I have so much other stuff that I do with video editing and filming and everything else, including this podcast now, I just don't have the time to dance as much as I possibly would like to. And I just being at Hydrate have realized I can't dance the way I want to. Like you have about this much space, and I can still do some of my tricks, but everyone's setting their drinks there and socializing, and you might kick someone in the face, which I've done with Lucky Horseshoe before,
Mhm.
and at Atmosphere. But that combined with like the late hours, like my schedule is kind of like 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. I'm working, so I can't really be staying up until 2 a.m. too often. Like once a week or once every other week would be fine, but your whole schedule has to change if you're going to go dance really.
Oh yeah, like people will my like 9 to 5 friends will make fun of me for sleeping until 11 a.m. And I'm like, well, if you worked until 2 or 3 a.m., you would too. It's not like I'm lazy and I'm sleeping in every day. It's like I don't fall asleep until 3 or 4, and if I want to get a good amount of sleep, then I'm sleeping until 11. And I'm actually proud of myself as long as I am consistently waking up between like maybe 10 and 11,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes it is easy to get your schedule thrown off and sleep until 1 or 2. And I mean, there were times where I was depressed and I would just sleep all day until like 6. I would like kind of stay up after my shift a little bit, fall asleep, and then sleep all day until my shift. And then like 5 nights in a row I just wouldn't see the sun. And in the winter it's really bad because even waking up at 11, you get so little daylight when the sun starts setting at 4.
Yep.
And it's like you don't that's the hardest thing about the job, honestly, for me, is the schedule. I think I would like to be a morning person. I would love to see the sunrise, but I'm not doing that unless I stay up all night.
Yep. And for me, before I was go-go dancing, I was working for a ride service at my school, and the shifts were 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. So it was kind of a natural transition for me.
Oh yeah.
But ever since I've started dancing just Sundays from noon to 3 to 6 p.m. at Hydrate, like it's just so hard to go back to it. Like if I stay up till 2 a.m., I am absolutely dead now, and that's like I'd have to be heading home then, especially like taking the train at 2 or 2:30 in the morning. It's a lot for you.
Oh
But
yeah.
something that I don't think people think about is that centuries ago, like millennia ago even, humans had people who stayed up during the day and people who stayed up at night to watch for predators and take care of anything that might happen.
Huh.
So we
I didn't
need
really think about
morning and
that.
we need night people in order to function as a society.
They've done studies where they say some people like are more productive or more creative at night, and I think I am kind of one of those people. I always was someone who kind of stayed up late, and like in college, I would be waiting until the last minute to do my paper, and I would stay up all night doing it, and I would still get a good grade. Like that's just kind of like I work best under pressure and
Hmm.
at night sometimes. But
Yeah. Do you think that might be what draws you to go-go dance? Is that there is just some inherent pressure on you?
um, I wouldn't say that necessarily, but maybe this might sound like a little bit of a topic change, but you were talking about, like the enjoyment of it.
Hmm.
And I would say like I do enjoy it because I know some people like we are talking about they have to use substances just to get through it or they feel like this is like the only job that's like an option for them that they want to pay their rent. Um I actually enjoy it and I look at the positive aspects of it and I one of the most like I find it kind of fulfilling. Like I am a like people might not think this, but I am a productive member of society. A lot for a lot of my customers, it's like I'm like a therapist. People will tell dancers things that they won't tell their closest friends and family. And one of like the most fulfilling moments for me was somebody got a dance with me and he cried and he said he's autistic and like his husband has never touched him like that or like he hasn't been touched like that in a long time like just like he just want to be hugged and held and that's what a lot of it is and he said like I made him feel like like a human being like sometimes he feels like a robot and that was like sweet. I like being able to give people like intimacy. For me, it's not so much sexual, it's sensual, and sometimes it's just about the touch and the that makes people feel good. Some people don't feel like they're always getting that physical connection, and that's important.
Hmm. That's my favorite thing about this work, and especially when you talk about something like escorting, it's the exact same thing. Technically, escorts aren't sex workers; they're companions, and that companionship really is what matters the most.
Hmm.
Like go-go dancers provide it, escorts provide it. In some ways, drag queens do, but that's definitely much more performance, much more of the entertainment.
Hmm.
So I think we're getting a little bit high on time, so I want to do some closing remarks. Of course, I need to ask, you already kind of touched on this, but what do you do to keep people coming back for more?
Um, damn, I just be myself. I know that's a really shitty answer, but
No,
I
it's not at all.
I have good conversation. I ask them questions about themselves. Like have interest in what we're talking about,
Hmm.
stay engaged, and just
You have fun
have
with
good
it.
yeah have fun with it. If you're somebody who they can tell is just like you want to lap dance and they're very like if you're not friendly with them like you want them to feel like you're their friend and I do like I try to like my customers. I do try to have like a real relationship. It's like
Hmm.
yes, it's true that if you weren't paying me I wouldn't be talking to you, but that doesn't mean that the conversation is fake or that I'm not being myself because I am. It's real. It's just we're both benefiting each other in a way.
Yeah, I actually was just talking last night with my boyfriend about a similar subject. So, actors, they're pretending to be someone else, but are they lying? And we kind of came to the conclusion that no, they're not, because they're embodying this role, they're providing this
Yeah.
service, and it's not just like they're lying about every detail, they're actually really feeling those feelings and
They're
experiencing those
speaking a
things.
truth from maybe a different perspective.
All for the sake of other people's enjoyment, which is selfless in some ways, but also, of course, you get money for it, but you kind of need the money in order to
Right.
live.
Therapists get paid too.
Hmm.
Like,
So, do you have any remarks for our audience before we finish up?
um, support the arts. I don't know. We have a really cool shirt that says "I support the arts" and it's got a picture of a go-go dance. I should have worn that today. I've always loved that shirt.
I should have worn one of my Lucky Horseshoe shirts. I cut them all into crop tops and tank tops and things. Well,
Yeah.
that's why this one, but
Come to the Lucky Horseshoe Wednesday through Sunday, and I might not be there because I take days off, and sometimes I go home or like I do different things, but generally I am, and I'm fun.
yeah, I'll put the. I don't know if I am allowed to do this, but I'll say now I'm going to put the address to the Lucky Horseshoe right down here somewhere for you, and maybe those days too, just so people can have it written down. Put it in their calendar or something. Come support Christian, see his moves, and his authenticity.
Shakira, Shakira. People say that sometimes when I do certain things, but
And always remember to keep people coming. See you guys.
I